All right, UFO in the Know listeners, thanks for tuning in. Today we have a special guest, John Barton Hobbs III, tuning in from an undisclosed location. He's got some serious intel. He's on the lam. Somebody's possibly put a hit out on him already. Uh, John Barton Hobbs.
Hey,
Okay,
so
so today we want to discuss the Tic Tac incident. And I think this is a good place to start because I think the Tic Tac incident is like the most widely known, other than like Roswell, maybe the most famous UFO sighting right now, and it's confirmed by the government. I want
that's the
this.
key.
Yeah, that's a biggie because I want to say, like, as I've been studying this ufology stuff, all these people that write all these books about whatever Majestic 12s or Roswell's aliens and stuff. Um, I feel like this lore is focused around these government admissions, which, like Roswell, we can kind of consider that an admission because they had a news report initially that said they saw a flying saucer. And that's why everybody's, has these conspiracy theories surrounding it. It's because they initially said we saw a flying saucer and we saw a crashed one, and then they reversed the story later on. But now we have another admission. It's not as juicy as we caught a crashed flying saucer, but it's still a pretty good story. It's still we sent fighter jets to chase it. We have the testimony from all these fighter pilots. We have the crew. We have who is that guy? Kevin Day, I think that was his name. I saying his name.
The OS.
OS, yeah, OS1 Kevin, or he was a senior chief. I'm sorry, senior chief Kevin Day. His testimony, he's got a really good story surrounding that too. Um, David Fravor, and then there was another fighter pilot too.
The female.
Yeah, the female fighter pilot.
Yeah.
And then I saw something today where there's even another fighter pilot that said, well, he does not wish to be named at this time, but he wants his story to be come forth. So I'm wondering, like, was there pressure on these people not to talk about it, or?
I'll tell you this though. I'll tell you this because especially as like a Navy officer, because I've worked with a lot of them. You go and put yourself out in the media and you start talking about things that may or may not be classified. Start talking about things that may or may not make the Navy look bad. Like it's a little different. It's even a little different than doing it as an enlisted person. So
Mhm.
maybe that might be part of the pressure that they're feeling. They don't
Yeah,
want to mess up their careers or something,
yeah, because if
talking
you
about it.
I was talking to you earlier about a popular mechanics article that I found about this incident, which I think approached it from a really skeptic viewpoint, saying basically if this thing didn't happen, if there wasn't this wild UFO sighting, then everybody surrounding this event must have been just like totally incompetent that they couldn't recognize like a reflection in their canopy is not a UFO, it is chasing it. And the radar operator's incompetent too. He can't recognize birds or bird shit from UFOs. And everybody surrounding this incident should have been fired or shouldn't have been allowed to be doing this job. Like,
I agree. I mean, like when I think about it, I've never flown a fighter jet, but I'm starting to wonder, what's the perspective of the pilot from the cockpit? You're
yeah,
flying at super high speeds. What's the
but
perspective of the ground? I mean, like what's when they saw it on the ground and when they see it
right,
in the air? I,
yeah.
I wish we would have had
If you
cockpit
saw
recording.
like a ping pong ball go past you, would you say, "Oh, maybe that's a UFO," or I don't know. But
I don't know.
that's what I was going to say. Like, if like the popular mechanics article kind of brought into question these fighter pilots, like kind of in a way, like saying like that's the only way this is not true is if these fighter pilots are incompetent, and so we have to think about that. Are they incompetent? Well. I don't think so,
Here-
but
here- here- Here's why I find it strange. I find this whole thing strange, right? Okay, so let's uh let's assume that they saw something. We still don't know what it is. It's unidentified. It matches the description. Everything works out the way it is. So when I look at this, I think, okay, now if this is a foreign government or foreign adversary or our own government here in the United States, what are the chances that we've gone 20 years without seeing this same thing again? If it's capable of doing and completing all of the functions that they say that it did, why
Mhm.
is there only one confirmed sighting of it? Why is there only one time that, and why is it in an area that the Navy's operating in? Like pretty close to them. I mean, I could see them doing something like, I could see the government making a dumb mistake like that. They make mistakes all the time.
Mhm.
But what, why did it all line up like that? So it's a question that I feel like should be answered. Like, if you're a foreign entity and you have this type of vehicle, how come we haven't had any more reports of it? How come nobody else has seen it? There's a lot of ships in the world. There's a lot of cameras.
Mhm.
There's been no more sightings of it, as far as I know. You
Well,
know,
that's what I was going to point out. There is that article I'm going to share with you. Oops. Yeah, this one. So this is on Fox News, and they're saying that um, there was one in the UK, the same thing.
did they get recording of it?
It doesn't sound like it. No, I don't see any mention of recording. It's a pretty short article. Yeah, I okay. Pictures were snapped. Oh, where's the pictures? Uh, I don't see it. Yeah, you're right. So somebody, I mean, as far as we know, I guess the only pictures we have are that like infrared footage that, isn't really that good. Or even that infrared footage, I'm not even sure if that's like something else.
Yeah, I mean, it's not great footage. And I mean, you're trying to analyze a video from, what was it, 2002, something like
Mhm.
that. I mean, it's pretty far back. So I don't
Okay,
know.
so
I
this is
feel
what I
like if
meant.
there was,
So this isn't the Tic Tac, I don't believe. This is something else.
I can't
This is the
see your
gimbal.
screen
You
if
don't
you're
see my screen?
there. Yeah, no.
Oh, wait, wait, wait. Do you see it now?
Yes, kind of.
Okay,
It's very small, but it'll be good.
it's
It'll be good.
small.
I can zoom
So
in on it. I got it.
this is like the famous one that everybody's seen now is this one. This is more like a flying saucer though. This isn't the Tic Tac.
Yeah, but I
I
mean,
thought.
anybody that's even remotely, even remotely knows anything about this subject has seen those pictures. You
Yeah.
know.
Uh-huh. Well, I guess the big deal about it is the emission. You have the emission of the Navy that they did that this is all true.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the
Yeah, I
pictures, you're
mean,
right, are not as outstanding. Why can't we get just a I would really like to see a picture of it.
yeah, exactly. And for me, like, all right, when you're I've been all over the ocean. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've been all over the ocean. I've never seen anything like that, and I've never heard any other sailors say they've seen anything like that. I've seen a shooting star. It was
Uh-huh.
pretty close. It was obviously a shooting star. Like, it was pretty obvious.
Yeah.
Um, I've seen things way up in the sky. I don't. I feel like the only reason that somebody would have a UFO in the ocean would be to be testing it away from everyone. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So I could get on board with that, but I don't. I mean, I feel like we would have more. See, that's an artist's rendering of it, and
Yeah,
I feel like we would have.
I was gonna say too. I've seen like several documentaries about this incident, and like a lot of times what they'll do in the UFO documentaries is they'll make like a animation of it, like a CGI animation type thing. And a lot of times I see it with these little like landing gear on the bottom of it. You see that?
Yeah, I don't remember the pilots describing that at all.
Nobody ever said that. Yeah, nobody's ever like
No
a lot of times I'll
flight
see it.
surfaces,
Here it is
nothing.
too. This little like landing gear thing or whatever
Yeah, they
that
said it
is.
had no flight surfaces on it at all.
Yeah, so
So,
what is that?
I mean, it's not a flight surface, but still, nonetheless, it's not something that they described being on it.
No. Yeah, I've heard so David Fravor does a lot of interviews about this. I've heard him describe it, but I've never heard him mention these little doohickeys sticking off of it.
Yeah, I've never heard of that either. To me, it's all really strange. I want to hear that OS's story. I didn't get a chance to watch that
Oh,
on
yeah,
that
yeah.
time.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
So he's got a
what
good story.
the thing that kills me though is like, okay, so you're out there on the ocean doing some operations as the Navy. And what did they originally see is what I want to know that made them want to go investigate it. Did they
Uh
think it was a submarine? Did they think it was another ship?
Kevin
You know,
Davis was the one that saw it, or at least he's the only one that came forward that saw it. But he said that he was tracking these things for days and that they were doing all these exercises out over the ocean and he would see groups of them just flying in and doing maneuvers over like around them and stuff and that the only reason they went after it is because they had people just like right there seeing this stuff and they're like why don't you guys just go check this out and that's when they saw it.
yeah, I'd like to get the official like how this all came down the chain because like what from the beginning to the end, who decided, to go after it and what they actually saw, what they thought it was, you know?
um as far as I know that's all Kevin Day's stories. He saw him on the radar. They sent the fighters to. I think they sent several like fighters out.
I thought
Just
it was just two.
there's that woman, and then there was David Fravor.
Yeah.
No, she was with David Fravor. I remember. Yeah, she was. They
Yeah.
were
Yeah.
out there at the same time. And then another part of his story that I wanted to talk about is he says that there was these like radar tapes or whatever, I don't know, whatever evidence. Some guys show up in a helicopter, get off there in civilian clothes. They talk to the CO or whatever and said, "Hey, I guess they show their MIB badges and like, we're MIB. Hey, give us all this shit." Like,
Yeah, I don't think it works that way, buddy.
yeah.
I don't think it works that way.
And they're like, "Okay, there you go, guys. Give them all the shit. You heard them, boys." And
I don't think it works that way. I don't think that I just don't I don't I mean I've never seen anything like that. Um I've never worked in the CIC in the Combat Information Center on a Navy ship. I've navigated Navy ships, but I've never worked in the information center. To my knowledge, um, there's no way to record the radar unless it's digitally. I don't know if they had tapes back then. I have no idea. That would be nice to
whatever
have somebody who
evidence.
could or
Yeah,
couldn't discuss that,
yeah.
to see if that's really true, that somebody showed up and took all the evidence of their past radar stuff. Um, I know on a normal merchant ship, you can't record the radar, on a tape. I guess, um, yeah.
I know I saw
So,
an article about talking about these men in blacks.
well, let me rephrase that. I don't know if they have anything to record it with or why anybody would show up. Like, I mean, did they show up while they were still on the exercise? Because that doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Um, I guess after the exercise, after it was all said and done, I
Yeah.
guess like so. I guess if you're a Men in Black, they're just like you're on call and they're like, "Hey, send Men in Black. There's some UFOs stuff going on over there," and they just show up right after. Yeah, that's a good question. Do they show up the next day? I'm trying to find this
If,
article about the Men in Black that I saw earlier.
if I mean, if they showed up to take those recordings away, it would more than likely be, in my opinion, something owned by our government because you don't really, I don't know. I mean, why would they want to keep it secret? Why, what are they worried about people talking about? I mean, if the pilots came out and if anybody came out and showed those radar images to anybody anywhere, they'd call them crazy, you know?
Right. Okay.
So,
I know how much share this. Gmail. I'm just gonna email this to myself. So this is a article. It's from Fox News too, and it's talking about these Men in Black characters. Oops, just gotta.
I mean, that doesn't feel very, proactive to me for a government that doesn't know what these things are, or at least tells us they don't, to go out of their way to try to keep people from knowing about it when I feel like the knowledge of the general public, there's a lot of smart people out there who could answer some of these questions they have.
Well, that's part of the story, though. It's like they want all the secrets to themselves. That's why they don't share it.
Yeah, but I mean, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, you know. I mean, I don't know. From my perspective, I feel like most secrets that we keep are because we want to protect, our national security and things like that.
Well,
I don't
okay.
know.
All
Makes me
right.
feel like
So
it's a government. It feels like it's the government's UFO.
right. So at the beginning, it was to protect national security because so around the Roswell crash, around that time, that was like around the time the nuke uh, leaked and Russia got the nuke, and that was like a shock to the U.S. They're like, now they have the biggest weapon. Now we might just have a nuke war going on now. So the story goes that they got the UFO or whatever from Roswell, and they said, okay, now we can't let this secret get out. This is even bigger than the nuke. Like we gotta like make sure nobody knows. And that's how I don't know. That's the story, but
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know, man. The more I sit around and think about it, and I guess I'm kind of just spitballing my thoughts right now.
no, yeah, that's what
I
we're
mean,
here for.
I feel like I just really want to know, and
Uh huh.
I can't believe you're keeping this information from me. I want to know
Well,
about the aliens. That's how I feel about the government keeping this information.
the
And
ufologists say that the only reason they keep it secret for this long is because there must be something about the secret that's like too profound to us or would be damaging to society for us to know. Like the aliens created us, or the aliens are interdimensional beings that are like manipulating us in ways that we can't even see. Like they're just that idea is too scary for people, so they just don't tell them.
yeah, no, if you listen to Bob Lazar's story, it really, like if you listen to that, if you watch that documentary when he talks about the aliens and them referring to them as the kids and
Uh-huh.
referring to them being small and like being a physical being, that kind of takes me away from the idea that they're like a third dimensional being. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
The hardest thing to wrap my head around is how they got from wherever they came from to us, intact and alive,
Uh-huh.
in a craft small enough
Yeah.
that that you could keep it. It doesn't. I don't know how they would support life. How are they going that fast? Those are the kind of big questions for me. I don't think that there's some kind of interdimensional third plane being. I think that they're
Hold on,
if
let
they're
me
already.
let me pause that thought. My wife's calling me. She might need something real quick. Just let me. I'll just edit this out. I'll just keep recording. Hey, what's up? Hey, I'm talking to Hobbs.
Hey, son of a gun! It's refreshment time!
Okay. Oh, okay. Sorry to keep you waiting. What were you saying?
I don't remember where we were at with it. Let's get back to the Tic Tac though, because that was what
Yeah.
we were talking about.
Right. So I was going to talk to you about these Men in Blacks, and let's see what this article says about what the Men in Black were doing.
I'm zooming in on it.
Uh, it doesn't say much. It just says
Eventually, set fighter jets like the object succeeded. Hang on,
it.
black and white.
Unknown individuals. Yeah, it seems kind of.
I mean, it's a little bit suspect to me. I mean,
Yeah, it seems a little clickbaity to me too. It's like,
you don't just have. Imagine you're on a Navy ship. You're the captain on a Navy ship.
uh,
I mean, are you just going to have some rando people you don't know who they are show up and just tell you to delete something that you may or
yeah,
may not even have on board the vessel? It sounds very like I don't know if it just doesn't sound right to
mm-hmm.
me. That sounds like part of it that feels like I don't know.
Yeah.
If I was going to try to discreetly erase any information, I wouldn't come in and tell people to discreetly erase the information. I would tell them we're going to take it up for further investigation, take the information, and never report back to them with it ever again.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
So that
you
lay
got a
their
point. Yeah.
concern, lay their concerns to rest.
Uh-huh.
That way they think that it's being
Yeah.
taken care of, whatever it is, and then you could
Yeah.
write it off as whatever you want. I'm not going to sit here and tell you to delete this stuff. It's super secret. Why would I
Hmm.
let you know that? You know, I
Yeah.
mean,
You kind of give yourself off if you like.
if
Yeah, kind of give yourself away there.
if you really wanted these pilots to not talk about it, you could have told them, okay, look, this was an experimental aircraft that we had out there. You know, um, we need you to sign a non-disclosure agreement.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so I forget where I was at there. But anyways, like well, I think I was saying, I would have just went with where were we at?
Uh,
Oh,
Men in
them with
Black.
their Yeah, yeah. I mean, they wouldn't have. I don't think they would come in there and tell them that these things are super secret and stuff. I would have told them, not to disclose this information that you saw this. This is an experimental aircraft, that we
Hmm.
have, and then they could have done that, and these Navy pilots would have never went public with it.
Yeah.
I mean, lying about it, but
Or you don't even have
it's
to tell them that. They could have just said, like, this is a national security issue. Don't talk about it. Like, that's it.
exactly they
Like,
didn't. So it's
yeah.
obviously, I feel like I hate to say part of a story is fabricated, but I feel like there's a little bit added in there that feels to me like that, or it's just strange. It's strange. Like you were
Hmm.
saying, these stories have to be able to hold up to scrutiny, and this is my version of the scrutiny.
Well,
So
no, yeah, you're right. So, yeah.
it's a strange thing because I don't see anything anywhere else about it. On top of that, the thing that just kills me is that, you know, maybe maybe these incidents aren't being reported anymore. Maybe they've solved the problem of having people come forward with the seeing the tic tac. It doesn't explain a
Well,
lot though, because
the in the prelim DNI report, the Navy said they did come up with like a new like reporting method just for UFOs since then, since this happened, and they're encouraging people to report it.
hmm,
Like they're not encouraging, telling them to report it.
well, yeah, I would imagine that they need to. Um, you know,
Yeah,
I'm kind of afraid to say too much because I've worked for the Navy. I've
ne-
never
never
had,
heard anybody talk about
I've
it.
never, I've never seen a reporting method. I'm not a fighter pilot though either, so I'm much less likely to see that
Hmm.
than anybody else. So I've never seen anything like that. I've never seen anything remotely familiar. So I wonder if people are reporting them and we're just not hearing about it.
Hmm.
But I would think that with the way that communication works nowadays and how everybody has a phone, that this stuff they would if that's what leads me to believe that this is not alien because it feels like they would find a place where they know nobody's at to go test these things if they're in fact real. But over 20 years, we might maybe have one other reported sighting of the Tic Tac, or of an object that looks like it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Since it happened 20 years ago. So it just feels a little strange
Yeah,
that we
it is
think,
not. Uh, so the common UFOs are the flying saucer, and the glowing orange ball is another common one. That's the Foo Fighters one that still gets sightings a lot. The black triangle is another one, but no, the Tic Tac, you're right, it's not a commonly. I don't think there's that article that said that it got saw in England somewhere, but
yeah, but I
it's
mean,
pretty not very good.
that's like saying that Bigfoot got seen in Arkansas. I mean, it
Yeah.
did, apparently, but
Uh,
did it? You know, I
does that mean you should go camp out all night looking for a Bigfoot? Yeah.
mean, that sounds like fun, but
Or
I just spent a whole year in the Pacific Northwest and I didn't see anything that remotely looked like Bigfoot, and
uh,
lived my life in Arkansas. I never saw anything that looked like Bigfoot.
uh-huh.
So the glowing orange ball, I've heard about that, but I haven't done a lot of research on it. But I feel like that one makes a little more sense, especially since it is apparently widely reported. I have heard that, and that would be one that I would probably be more willing to like look into. It's not going to do a lot of good to investigate the Tic Tac because nobody else has seen it, and all we have are what these people say. You're only going to get that far.
Hmm.
The glowing orange ball makes a little more sense because you could probably establish a pattern of when it was seen, a pattern of where the areas it was seen, things like that. That would be,
Well, that's what
and
MUFON does. MUFON.
They look good.
Yeah, MUFON takes in all the UFO sightings and tries to like put together a picture of where are they seen at, or are they seen coming out of this area particularly more than this area, or at least that's what I think they're doing. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if there's like how well organized they are, if there really is like a MUFON national, there is a national director. Like, do they sit there and comb over all the UFO sightings in the country and try to? I think they do. I think they do somewhat, because I heard from one of the MUFON guys at this UFO conference I went to this last weekend, and he had all the most interesting UFO cases. And it sounds like the latest like UFO sightings aren't more of the flying saucer and the orange balls, but they're like these weird shapes. Like he had one that was it looked like a domino brick like floating upside down. It had these like weird lights on the bottom. He had one that looked like two like white cylinders with like a thing connecting them. He had one that looked like just all these rainbow colors all over it. It looked really pretty, and he had like a drawing of it. But it sounds like they have these more like wild looking UFO sightings now.
It's getting a little bit hard to distinguish the difference between an actual UFO sighting and somebody who's going on Photoshop or
Well, that's
some
what they
graphic
do.
arts design.
They have an expert that looks over it and makes sure like, because there's ways you can tell if there's Photoshop. The like the pixels around it, the area you'll see it doesn't look like right if you zoom in on it. So I think they can tell if somebody zoom Photoshop this stuff.
Yeah, and then you also have the wide use of drones, and you've got drones coming out in all kinds of different shapes, sizes,
Right. Yeah.
things
So
like
that
that.
complicates it too. So you could make a drone that's pretty much shaped like anything. You can make it look like Santa Claus is flying through the air.
They do that
Wanted to.
actually.
Yeah.
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 And then you have the guys that launch porta potties up on a rocket, so
Uh,
you never you
yeah.
never know what you're gonna find flying around in the air. But you know, the other thing is the common shapes and the common shapes and sizes and sightings, I think, are the ones that are more important than all the other random stuff. You know,
Yeah. Because
if I were to
that's how you
fabricate
establish a pattern of.
exactly, if I was going to fabricate one and I wanted to get attention or make it more interesting, it would be a different shape. It would be a different size. It would be something unusual that's going to grab your attention. The ones that are more common, I feel like when they get reported, they should be taken more seriously, than some random stuff. And then you got to remember, this is something that, so if it's of this earth, like I feel like it's going to be one of the more uncommon looking ones. It's going to be somebody
Mm,
testing something. It's going to be an unidentified object that, somebody's testing. Um, and honestly, if it's found outside of a government area or outside of a government controlled area, I don't feel like it's going to be government, as much, because they're going to want to keep that stuff to themselves. They're not going to want to go um, flat around a bunch of civilians with camera phones.
no. Mm-mm.
That one right there helps out. I feel like they're going to stay as far away from that as they can. So, so that makes me feel like more sightings that are unusual, that, and I mean unusual as in not the usual suspects, are probably going to be civilians doing something that probably could be explained, more
Mm.
so than not. And the other thing is if they're alien or extraterrestrial, my thoughts on it are, how many different weird spacecraft shapes do they have? Or do these aliens have? How many different alien species are visiting us but not making contact with us?
Hmm.
If I was an alien species, I would want to make contact with us. I want to make contact with the alien species. So like, I
Yeah.
would feel like it would be the same. And if you've got different crafts, are they all coming from the same species, or are they all coming from different alien planets to our planet to investigate us? You know, are they all like talking in
Uh,
their alien congregation and coming to investigate us? I mean, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
yeah.
And when you think about the distance between us and other habitable planets and other places in the galaxy, they're pretty darn far away. And it feels like it would take a lot of resources just to send people over here to just cruise around in the ocean or mess with people
R-
with small boats.
Right. So I
You
wanted
know,
to talk about something I listened to Tom DeLonge on his podcast with Steve-O today. And what Tom DeLonge is saying is that these are like interdimensional beings. I'm going to try to explain this the best I can. So he says that so our consciousness is like really powerful, and our consciousness is like the universe seeing itself, like experiencing itself, and that we basically are the universe. And that's why he like tied it into religion and said that that religion is right. It's just trying to explain this phenomenon where we are the universe and we are born into physical being, and that all matter is just a wavelength of energy, and outside of this like energy, wavelength that's matter, there's like extreme darkness, which is like the lowest frequency, and extreme light, and that like light is like the good uh aliens. I'm trying to understand this, but like there's these other beings that live in this energy made of don't really have physical bodies. They're more just energy, and that they don't have souls, and so that's why they're interested in us, because we they want our souls, and that those are like the demons from the Bible. Essentially, it's just these creatures that live, or these beings or whatever that live, that are essentially aren't matter. There's something else. They're like energy on some other wavelength, and that they're also that they're trying to like hold us back. They don't want us to be too powerful. They don't want us to be closer to the light. They want us to be like closer to them. So they try to, and they feed off of our like negative emotions. And so they try to like stir us up and make us angry or divide
so
us.
is this a theory of his, or does
No,
he try to back this up with
he
fact?
no, he never he never backs up any this stuff. I've heard him say stuff like this vaguely before, but he kind of, it's all really hand wavy. I feel like it's just like, I know this, and trust me that I know this. I know the people that know this, and I know the truth because. But who's the
I
other
mean,
guy?
it does. I mean, it sounds interesting.
It sounds interesting and
It is sound
plausible.
more interesting. I mean, I'd have to listen to it and see it.
Yeah, I don't think I do it justice. As I don't want to take his words and try to.
I don't I don't know if he could convince me of any of that though. But however, to his credit, there was I was reading about like near death and after death experiences. I don't know why I got interested in it. People have them, you know, and one of them, one of them was a person saying that they remember themselves. It felt like they were floating through space towards a giant ball of energy,
Uh huh.
you know, and like they were returning home. So I, I don't know where they came up with that. So I mean, I guess that could be to his credit. I don't know where he's basing this off of, or where he's found out what aliens are. You know, like who did they come write a book about it, or did they? You know,
Yeah, with him and Luis Elizondo, right? Who's like part of his company, and they kind of got this release of this incident, or these photos, which was the Tic Tac stuff. It's all very hand wavy with them. I feel like it's all very much like, oh, I'm in the know. I have all the secrets. I got access to all the secret files, or the people that know told me. So you should just trust me because I know, but I can't tell you because that would blow their cover or whatever. But it's all
Yeah.
very
Okay.
hand wavy. It's
Yeah.
and
All right.
um
I mean,
to
most stuff is backed up with fact, and at least in the case of Bob Lazar, like I can hear his story of it of a firsthand account of I mean, there are things that can back up what he says. There may be people out there who can debunk what he says. I
Mhm.
feel like I believe what he says because it's according to him a firsthand experience. Additionally, additionally, he talks about the size of the aliens. He talks about potentially seats that they would be sitting in, and and cockpit and things like that that they would be driving from. They seem like physical beings. All the
Mhm.
abduction stories that people have are of physical beings. Um,
Well, I didn't finish it. So he did say that. So the UFOs that you're talking about, the ones he said that, yeah, those are real. Those are the aliens too. That's like their physical form once they come into our universe. That's how they manifest themselves.
so the other thing,
Hold on.
let's go
I
there
think
with
my
this. This is scientific, and I'm not going to claim to have the answers, but I do have the questions.
Hold on.
People say things.
What did you say? Yeah, I'm talking to my friend. What do you need?
The prophecy is true.
Oh, okay.
All right,
I had to get some things for the baby. Sorry.
all
Okay,
right. I
so
actually remember where I was at now.
okay.
So, anyways, like we were talking about is he was talking about aliens when taking on a form whenever they come into our universe. Well, I hate these kind of discussions because you talk about our universe, you, now you're talking about something crazy because is there an edge to the universe? Is there an end to the universe? What's the universe located inside of? Is it a giant cube? Is it an
We
empty
don't know.
space? Where does that end?
Uh,
Exactly. We don't know. We have
yeah,
no idea. We don't even know if there is an end to the universe. I mean,
yeah.
scientists speculate that there is and that it's traveling faster than the speed of light. The edge of the universe is expanding. What's it expanding inside of? What's the edge of the universe made out of? Is there something at the end of it, or is it just the matter that's expanding inside of the nothing that is considered the universe? Like, we're talking about stuff that's unrealistic to me because we're never going to get the answers to that. You know, like I would rather talk about the aliens that are in physical form
Mm-hmm.
than some speculative idea of energy and,
Mm-hmm.
religion and stuff, which
Yeah, it
I'm
all
okay with.
gets very like metaphysical.
Yeah, it becomes this just idea that somebody came up with probably,
Mm-hmm.
so it's like I don't know if we'd ever be able to look for answers to that, to
Mm-hmm.
answer those questions.
No, I
So it's,
mean,
like you said, it's one of those
there's
wave
no
of the
way to
hand thing.
test for that. Test
Exactly.
for the internet. I mean, if they were,
It's all theories. It's all
yeah,
theories
if
and
if this
things that
was
people have just
true,
come up with.
I guess they could, there's no limits to what they could do. They could,
There's no limits to what you could make up or come up with or think of
right.
in your mind,
Yeah.
which could be aliens.
Uh-huh.
I mean, you could come up with anything and somehow relate it to religion or to aliens or some
Yeah.
unknown technology.
Hey, yeah,
You know,
you ever watched the
it's hard to
Ancient
tell the truth.
Aliens show?
Yeah.
A little bit. Yeah, I just feel like that show gets a little ridiculous because he'll literally go through everything in the Bible and say, "That's aliens. That's aliens. That's aliens. Oh, that's aliens too. Oh, you know that they were probably talking about aliens." And he doesn't. It's just like
I mean, you can't prove him wrong, but you can't prove
can't
him
prove.
right.
No, you can't
Like
prove them either way.
either way, you're just telling me you're relating anything and everything to alien technology. And,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of theories out there. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but there's a lot of theories on a lot of things, and
Well, I think
they're
you
ever
said
evolving.
this when you talked one time. You said, "Well, what do you consider an alien? Like, what? How do you define an alien? Then it's like an alien's just something that's just not from here. Like,
Yeah, that's true.
so then anything could be. If there was, you know, the biblical figures could be aliens because, or at least the
I
ones that
mean,
are from heaven or hell or whatever.
I can't prove one way or the other. I mean,
In
I
that
can't
sense,
prove one way or the other.
yeah.
It's not gonna clearly state in the Bible somewhere.
The these
We are definitely not aliens.
by the way, these are interdimensional beings that we're talking about.
Yeah, yeah. Like
Yeah.
it's not gonna state in there. Hey,
No.
we're definitely not aliens, or we definitely are aliens. So
Uh-huh.
it makes it ridiculous to even try and to try to connect them with energy and spirits and things out of this universe, and just we're just going too far, man. We're talking about stuff in planets nearby that can travel to us in a spacecraft, not something that needs to manifest it. And
Relating all this stuff back to religion
yeah, I mean,
and
we can do
saying,
that all we can do that kind of stuff all day long, and it's hard to prove right or wrong. But when we're starting to talk,
it is on there.
when
What is it?
when we're starting to relate um energy having to manifest itself into physical form, and then having to come investigate us because we have souls of which aren't defined really, in my opinion, and at
No.
least from what you told me, like that's I don't see
Yeah.
how you come up with that, and it doesn't do me any good. Like it's not anything I can go investigate,
Mm-mm.
and expand upon. So
No.
I think
Yeah,
if
I was gonna
if we're
say.
gonna find it, oh, go for it.
So, Stephen Greer, who's another one of the authorities on UFOs, essentially says that Tom DeLonge, what he has, whatever information he has, whoever told him, whatever the stories, whatever they told him, was fake, and that the intel community was like using him as just like a disinformation tool, basically, to say, "Here we go. Here's the real story, Tom. Go tell everybody this." And he was like, "Okay, I'll do it right away." And it told tells us all these stories now. He wrote a book series about it, and he's got a movie about it now. So are saying that he's like a disinformation platform. Stephen Greer knows the real story, and he says, I think you've heard some of his stuff, but he says that, or we talked about it, that the U.S. or government or some entity in the U.S. government does have UFOs, and the story about underground bases and that stuff is
I can
true.
believe
Yeah,
I can believe everything that you just said. Like disinformation, sure, I can believe that.
yeah,
Um, I can definitely believe that, and the more absurd that it sounds coming out of somebody's mouth makes people want to look away from it and be like, "Oh, that's absurd."
uh-huh.
That makes more sense, to make it sound more absurd or to go off in a direction that people completely couldn't understand. And it's
Yeah,
when I think about like those things, it's like I don't think we need to be going down the path of the theoretical, of the things that aren't necessarily provable. There's no real concrete evidence for. There's no other corroboration. There's nothing.
hmm,
Like you look at like a testimony like Bob Lazar's, there are plenty of people and encounters and facts to kind of go along with his stories. But when you look at the thing that you just said from uh, this guy, it's like, well, now you're spinning off a lot of stuff that people are going to start coming up with their theories. They're going to come up with, you know, uh, more
yeah,
mystical, things that are people don't understand, and it leads to the imagination. And now we've got, imagination out there running wild, and nobody's going to take that seriously. You're not going to find answers that way. The whole disinformation thing makes a lot of sense. Um, when you've got somebody with a lot of money investigating, when you've got somebody with a lot of connections investigating, pooling a bunch of people together and investigating this stuff, it seems like it could be threatening, and somebody would want to have this information out there, to throw them
yeah,
off. That's why myself personally, I'm not, just to clarify, I'm not looking to uncover a secret of the government that could compromise national security. I just want to know about the aliens.
hmm,
So, so there, you kind of have that going. Like I don't want to like just expose our nation's secrets. I do want to expose the aliens though. You
unless
know,
it's aliens,
unless it's aliens.
then
Under that circumstance,
that
yeah.
that secret. Uh, I think I've heard a ufologist say this, like there's like a human right to that knowledge
I
more
believe
so
so.
than the government's.
And from the government's perspective towards the people of the world, I think there's a right way and a wrong way to disclose that information. I feel like
Hmm.
there's a way to do it that would keep people from jumping out of the fifth story of their apartment building and killing themselves. Like that radio show caused people to do. So
Uh-huh.
uh, what was it, like Attack from Mars or something?
Oh, yeah. Orson
Yeah,
Welles.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
War of the Worlds. Yeah.
yeah. People are like jumping out of their windows. So when you think about it from that perspective, yeah, I mean, there's a way to do it. I feel like it is a human right to know. I mean, everybody wants to know. Everyone
Yeah.
wants, and there's no way for them to stop people from investigating that. I
Yeah.
mean, they may stop us from investigating Area 51. They may stop us from investigating underground bases, but they're not going to be able to stop us from investigating aliens. You know,
Uh-huh.
it's just natural curiosity.
Yeah, I was
And
gonna
that's why.
say, as somebody who works for NASA, what do you think is the first thing everybody asks?
Oh, exactly, aliens.
Yeah, aliens. Like that's the
Like
first
at a
thing.
time I
Yeah.
introduced you to that guy as a uh that said she worked on interdimensional
Yeah.
uh
Or it
species breeding or something.
it's something like that. Yeah, I told it to the guy at the jujitsu tournament. It was that was pretty hilarious. They cracked up.
Yeah, but Honestly, if people at NASA knew about aliens, I feel like we would hear more about it. I feel like if
No.
people in the Navy knew about aliens, people in the military knew about aliens. I feel like if there's so many people,
Hmm.
if a lot of people were exposed to it, we'd be hearing a lot more accounts that made more sense. It's hard. It's a hard
Hmm.
secret to keep. I feel like, it's a
Yeah.
difficult secret to keep, which if they are keeping that one secret, it's been a long, hard road for them probably. Um,
Yeah, that's
because
like part of the story is too, is like why this kind of disclosure thing happened is because it's becoming more and more expensive to keep the secret. There's like more and more resources into just keeping this secret to where it you know, it's kind of more cost effective to just kind of let it out. But I think they're trying. So Tom DeLonge's story is that they're like trying to let it out slowly in like breadcrumbs. So by the time we hear it, that we will be like, oh yeah, we kind of knew that already.
well, we kind of know it. We all kind of know it, or at
Uh,
least want it to be true. There's a little bit of, not just the human curiosity, it's also a little bit of excitement knowing that the Roswell crash could have happened. I even
mhm.
stopped by Roswell on a visit out west with my family just because I wanted to go see alien stuff. It was not as
Yeah.
fun as I thought it would be, and you know, but
Uh,
when you we all want to know, and if they let it out slowly, that would help avert panic.
uh-huh.
But I could believe that if that's what he's saying, I already kind of had the feeling that's what they were trying to do by starting these disclosure reports and things like that. I just don't
Yeah.
want it to take 200 years, and when I'm dead, for them to finally come out and say, "Yeah, it was all true," or
Uh-huh.
"Yeah, we've known this." I want to know about it now. You know,
So I saw some more kind of background into this. So the Pentagon, or the New York Times article from 2017 that shows that photo that we looked at, is kind of where this all started, and that was done by Tom DeLonge and Luis Elizondo from, or he says from ATIP. He says he was the director of ATIP, and so
is that the
I
guy on
learned.
the History Channel? Is that the guy that was on the History Channel thing with
Yeah,
Okay,
he's got a little goatee, and he's
yeah,
like
exactly.
he's like makes kind of like Tom DeLonge makes all these claims and sayings. Well, I can't tell you how I know this because they'll kill me or something, or
Or
something
you'll lose
bad,
your clearance, or
or
or just some dumb stuff.
something. Yeah, I don't
It
know.
feels like disinformation to
Yeah,
me.
it
Yeah,
feels.
I felt that way as soon as I saw that. I saw the first episode of that, and that was it. And it all felt like disinformation, or it's either that or it's a Bigfoot hunt.
Well,
Where people are trying to make money. It's one or the other.
what I learned from, I watched this like New York Post investigation on it, and they said that ATIP. So Luis Elizondo did work for the Pentagon. ATIP was a real thing, but ATIP was more like Luis Elizondo's private hobby after work. It wasn't an official. It wasn't his duty in any capacity to do that for the Pentagon. It was just he worked for the Pentagon, and apparently, like, there's enough buzz around the Pentagon that people take it seriously enough that they look into it. And Luis Elizondo is kind of like the leader of these people that kind of organized them together. Several people from the Pentagon just said, like, let's start an after school club to look into this, but nobody ever tasked him on that. That was all his idea. And that ATIP started out. So the whole, what the news article was saying in New York Times. So they did spend 22 million of our taxpayer dollars to investigate UFOs and paranormal shit. But what that was so there's this guy that also worked at the Pentagon, and he had read this book about Skinwalker Ranch that Robert Bigelow had a team out there. Robert Bigelow is this billionaire that's like super interested in paranormal stuff, and he invests all this money into paranormal stuff. And that Robert Bigelow was awarded this contract for the Pentagon to investigate paranormal stuff at Skinwalker Ranch, which they didn't find any. They didn't really find anything at all with that, but somehow, like, between in all this mess, like, so that program was called OSAP, and I have to look what OSAP, what that was called, but what they said was ATIP was the secret code name for OSAP. So they would, I don't know. So okay, so it's already got a confusing acronym, right? So now they have another confusing acronym to confuse people from what that acronym is, and so they call it ATIP. And somehow Luis Elizondo just at some point just started saying, "All right, this after school club we have where we're studying UFOs. We stay up late after work and sit and look at our evidence or whatever they do. We're calling that ATIP now. So I am technically the head of ATIP because it's essentially it's nothing. It's just my club that I started on
I
my
have
own
no
that
idea.
nobody sanctioned. And
I have
so
no idea. Yeah. Like I'm already I'm lost like
it's
in all of it.
confusing. I know it's confusing.
But you're saying they spent $22 million of our taxpayer money to investigate paranormal activity on a ranch.
Yeah, on
That's
Skinwalker Ranch.
it's probably not the dumbest thing I've heard of, but it's still pretty dumb, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
I mean, it feels like you're just awarding your buddy some money to go out here and
well, that's what
investigate
the story was.
paranormal
Is
activity.
that that's what it was. The politician that did that, I forgot who was. I'll have to find it. It wasn't Podesta, but it was somebody else that was super interested in aliens or something too. Awarded him this money, and that was the flack he got. It was like, oh, so you just gave your buddy like a super expensive government contract, like
If
you're not
somebody
sketched at
awarded
all.
if, if somebody awarded me $22 million, I can assure you I would put great use to it. Either
Yeah.
A, finding aliens, or B, creating a civilian spacecraft that I could launch from the desert and see the backside of the moon and see if there's really a moon base back there. I mean, there are
Mhm.
so many other things I could have done than investigate paranormal activity with $22 million. With $22 million, I'd have some damn results, you know?
Yeah, they
I feel
didn't. I don't think that study didn't amount to anything, and it didn't ever get.
nothing got reported,
Yeah,
so
nothing got reported, and that contract expired and never got re-upped. And I forgot what I was gonna say, but yeah, I think everybody thought it was ridiculous too. Everybody in Congress too. I think there was only like a handful of people that like there's just enough to get this passed. Like the politician that passed it. Oh, the director um, was somebody at the Pentagon, the guy that read that Skinwalker Ranch novel, which the Skinwalker Ranch novel, which what got everybody interested in this thing, it makes all these like wild claims. Like they said they saw like a thing that looked like a little pig that was like half dinosaur, like ran past them and all this stuff. But like the guy that was from the New York Post said, "Well, is there any pictures of it? Like you guys said you caught all this wild stuff. Like how come you didn't get any pictures of it?" And they I don't know, like they didn't they just said, "Well, we just forgot." Like you forgot. Like that was your whole job. That was the whole purpose you were out there.
let me tell you a crazy story, right? All right. So when I was a kid, and I'm not talking about like a kid, like I'm talking about like 16, 17, I used to hang out with some people who weren't known for, um, they were known for doing illicit substances. Well, all of them told me that they were walking through the woods one day and they saw something that looked like a Barbie with wings fly past them, and all of them saw it. So you're telling me that this group of people, potentially on drugs, saw a fairy fly past them in the woods
Mhm.
I mean, at least two of them believed that they both saw it. And that sounds like exactly what you're talking about. A bunch of people on drugs
Mhm.
out on a ranch seeing a pig mixed with a
Well,
dinosaur.
no,
It just feels like that's the kind of story that I'm listening to right now.
that
You know,
you'd hear from a bunch of drug addicts like, yeah, man, we were out in the woods and swear to God, man, this fucking pig dinosaur, man, just ran through our camp, started knocking shit over, eating our snacks.
can I get $22 million to go out in the forest of Arkansas and look for this, flying whatever or wherever they saw it, like
Uh,
I want to go out and see if this fairy is real. I need 22 million bucks. Let's ask Congress for that. I mean, they gave people money to investigate pigeons on cocaine. I'm sure I can get it to go investigate a fairy in the woods. You know,
mhm.
that's kind of our, I'm feeling all that stuff. I think in real life, the best place to follow up with actual UFOs is going to be the orange balls. Um,
Mhm.
I don't think you can get any more information on the Tic Tac because nobody else has seen it. The only other place I can think that somebody would want to take that kind of technology and test it would probably be in the Arctic, the Antarctic. You know what I'm saying? Somewhere in the Southern Ocean where there's not shipping and there's not
Mhm.
people with cameras and there's not people with phones. I'm surprised that if anybody did do that in the Pacific Ocean, if this indeed did happen, that they did it somewhere where it could be visibly seen and reported and even recorded, you know,
Mhm.
even in 2002 or whenever that was. So it's just kind of the more I look at it, I feel like the more credible things are going to be the things that are seen more often.
Yeah.
I don't feel like this whole thing with the Foo Fighters guy. I watched it. I watched the first episode of that, and I felt interested in watching it. I felt compelled to watch it.
Mhm.
Um, I feel like you have to add a bit to sell a television show, kind of like Hunting for Bigfoot. You have to add a little bit of
Well, yeah, it was.
advancement. You have to make it exciting. It has to
Uh,
be something you want to watch. I don't feel like, and I only watched one episode. I would be willing to watch more. The problem is that I feel like it struck me as misinformation. I mean, you got a lot of big names there, you
mhm.
know, on that show talking about this stuff.
Wait, what
Why?
show? Oh, the UFO, the one on History Channel.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
yeah. I
yeah.
mean, there seem to be at least a lot of big names there. There seem to be a lot of people who would know the answers, or have
Uh,
in some kind of information. I just don't feel like it's credible information so far.
mhm.
After just watching the first show, I mean, I'm willing to watch the rest of it. I just don't think that.
Yeah, I
I just
vaguely
I
remember
don't know.
that show.
I believe the idea of it being disinformation.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean that's just me, just my opinion so far. So,
Oh, about the show
well,
or the
about
Tic Tac?
you said that not about the Tic Tac. I don't think that's disinformation. I can't.
Uh,
I have no. There's no. I can't sit here and say that they're wrong or that they
no,
didn't see it. You know
no,
what I'm
yeah,
saying? Like there's nothing. I just say that it's weird because it hasn't popped up again. It hasn't.
yeah.
There's no credible sources coming out and saying that they've seen it since. Um,
Uh-huh.
that's why I feel like if it was something that was being tested or test flighted, or it's a great place to take it out on the ocean to do that, but it's not a great place to do it near a naval exercise or near shipping lanes. I feel like if you wanted to see if that was going on still in the ocean, I would think it would be somewhere where people aren't going to be
Uh-huh.
traveling. I don't feel like it was alien. I'm not convinced that it was alien. I'm still not even convinced that they saw what they saw, but I mean, I'm not convinced that it was alien. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
So,
Well, doesn't mean it's alien. Just because it's a UFO doesn't mean it's an alien. It could have been
yeah,
just something
I hate,
unexplainable.
I hate the idea of UAP to unidentified aerial phenomenon, because then that opens up the idea that these are phenomenon, that they're not physical objects, that they can be explained away in a way that it would be, it could be a dust on a camera lens, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean the way I take that wording is like it's a phenomenon, just like lightning's a phenomenon. Like lightning's real. We know lightning's real, but like
I don't know. I don't think lightning is really what I would consider a phenomenon, because we understand it. We can't predict where it's going to strike, but we can predict that there's going to
yeah, I
probably be
guess
lightning in
no,
the
yeah,
storm. You
maybe
know,
that was the wrong example. So maybe
yeah, yeah,
like
no, but I mean, it's kind of like, yeah, I mean, something phenomenal. Something maybe that doesn't happen often, or that is extremely rare or unusual. You know,
mhm.
miraculous maybe, but I feel like that kind of vocabulary, being used by the government allows the use of explaining it away. It allows them
Yeah,
to explain things away as floating trash or weather
yeah.
balloons, space ice.
Yeah, because it's a
You
phenomenon.
know,
If it's a phenomenon, it doesn't necessarily have to be an object.
or yeah, it doesn't have to
Could
be
could just be that when a pilot's at this particular angle versus the sun, you see
exactly.
this thing or something.
I
Like
feel like that opens. I feel like we need to stick with the terminology of UFO.
I think that was done too to like. So now, if somebody goes online and searches for UFO, they might not learn as everything. Where if like maybe some article or some posting is under UFO or UIP or vice versa, they might
I think it
kind of
just allows
advise.
them, if you encounter an article about a UFO, right?
Hmm.
An unidentified flying object. An unidentified flying object inserts the fact that it's an object that's
Hmm.
flying, that's unidentified. If you say that it's an unidentified aerial phenomenon, they're reading about it and they're like, oh, the scientists say it's a phenomenon,
Hmm.
aerial, unidentified. Now, that gives them the opportunity to identify it as a phenomenon. It's like saying I'm an industrialist. That's what I do as a job. I saw that in the Stallone show. What's an industrialist? Nobody knows. Like,
Somebody
so
works in industry.
it it muddies the water a little bit, allows them
Hmm.
some room to spread their arms, spread their legs, and say,
Hmm.
okay, we can group this in with this type of phenomenon. You know,
Hmm.
it's that I think it's a by design vocabulary.
Yeah, like I see what you mean by that point. Yeah, they could just say, "Oh well,
I mean,
the
that's my
pilot's
initial feeling.
they're leaking the pilot's oxygen mask and he just started hallucinating,
Yeah, exactly.
or something like
Yeah,
that."
I mean, yeah, that's kind of the way I feel about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's enough people that are interested in the subject. You get enough people pointing their cameras at the sky, or at the water or wherever. I think eventually things are going to pop up. And the other issue is that now those can be explained away as Photoshop or graphic design. And, I've had people pass photos off on Facebook of like, oh, this is the first picture of a black hole. I looked at it and I was like, wow, that's a really good picture. That can't be real. Turns out
Hmm.
it's not real. So
Yeah, the first picture of a black hole is pretty grainy.
yeah, it's nothing phenomenal. You know what I mean? Like, so, you got an artist's depiction of it. So
Hmm.
kind of going down that rabbit hole anyways.
Hmm. Yeah, I
But
don't know. I feel like this UFO topic has been a topic for so long. It would have just kind of died off if there wasn't anything to it. Because, like, like remember the 90s History Channel? I don't know how this happened, but History Channel became like the UFO, Bigfoot Loch Ness Monster channel at some point, and all that Loch Ness Monster Bigfoot stuff kind of died off. But here we are still talking about the UFO stuff. But I don't know. I mean, that's what sells, though. Like that's what
It's
people.
interesting. It's
Yeah,
interesting. There's a lot of people interested in hearing about it. Like Ancient Aliens, I mean, that was a very successful series.
it's still on.
Is
Still
it?
making
Well,
it. Yeah,
it's
it's like
very
18
successful.
seasons now.
It's successful. It's
Yeah,
interesting. It's interesting, but it's all
yeah,
theories. I mean, none of it is
yeah.
proven, you know. And is it wrong? I can't necessarily prove any of it really wrong. I mean, somebody
Uh,
might be able to. I can't. But
oh, so
just
there's this new show on Netflix out that I just started watching. It's called like uh it's about this guy who's a historian. I'll find the name, but his whole thing is that he says that there were these ancient civilizations much earlier than we think, and that all the later ancient civilizations like Egypt and Rome or Greece or whatever like based all their shit off of this even older ancient civilization. And he makes a pretty compelling case for it because he's fat like they found older like ancient temples that are older than previously thought. Like there's been a few temples that have popped up that ended up being way older and then like are way more intricate with their stonework than we thought was capable. And he like goes to these sites, and he talks about how like so the historical academic community has kind of shunned him and called him ridiculed him for his whole career, and now it's like starting to well, he's got a Netflix special on him, and he's saying it's starting to become more widely accepted that what he's saying is true.
I could definitely get behind that. Like I feel like that could definitely be the case. And if it's something that they can prove to, you know, they've got evidence of it, you know, it's not just some
Uh-huh.
theory like Atlantis, you know,
Well,
like it's
he does say Atlantis. No,
that
he
that could very well be true.
he says that he believes in Atlantis.
Yeah, I mean, I could stand by, I could get behind that. There's a lot of locations that are flooded that could be Atlantis, you know.
Uh-huh.
There've been a lot of shows on it, a lot of searches for it, you know.
Uh-huh.
I could get behind that, you know, like I could get behind there being ancient civilizations that had great technology. I couldn't get behind them having, it'd be hard, it'd be very difficult to get behind them having greater technology than we have today.
No,
You know,
I
I
don't
mean,
think
they would
so.
have to be
No,
extremely ancient for all that technology
no,
to
I
affect
don't
their
think
race,
so.
but to
Yeah,
have better technology than the Romans or something like that, maybe sure, you know,
yeah. He's kind of claiming that the way civilization has gone is not like we've just advanced in a straight line.
linear.
We've kind of like we take some dips and then we go back up and dip and
I can see that. I mean, you got to remember, I mean, it doesn't take very much of a natural disaster to wipe out humanity. You know, I mean, to
yeah,
set us back to the Stone Age, it really doesn't take much. Now we're looking at having nuclear weapons that can do it. We could do it to our own selves with that, you know. And then you look at, you know, like the Santorini volcano, you know, or you look at the Yellowstone volcano, or you look at some large event like that could potentially set mankind, at least if not regionally or globally, mankind back hundreds of years. You know,
hmm
if all of our electronic devices were gone, we'd be set back pretty hard. You know,
mm, if all of our I don't know. I think somebody could could figure it out. I think that knowledge is still around in libraries. It's, I mean,
yeah, I mean that's true,
not like all the
but it still
information
would
on
be
the
a hell.
internet.
It'd be a hell of a learning curve. I mean, me picking up a
Yeah.
book and figuring out how to build a circuit board. I mean, I could probably do it after
Uh,
years of study. You know, but I don't think that there's a lot of, you know, people that could. I think it would set us back pretty hard.
hmm
So just the amount of knowledge that we have capable of on the internet now. So
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think more knowledge is necessarily good knowledge in this case of the internet sometimes because you have so much knowledge out there with only a small percentage of it actually verified to be true.
yeah, but I mean, like if I want to change my car's oil, I can YouTube it. If I want to,
Yeah.
if I want to program my Xbox to be able to record my gameplay, I can YouTube it. What's the
Mhm.
problem with this? Why is this messed up? I can YouTube it. And that right there, that's big. I mean, that's real big because now our jobs are becoming more specialized. We're getting into
Mhm.
specialized job industries. You go to school for business management, you may graduate and only focus on, accounting or finance or something like that, and you may
Mhm.
spend your whole career there. Whereas somebody else who went to school for business management is way over here and y'all don't know anything about each other's jobs. So I think if we got set back that far, it would really hurt us. So I could see why mankind would go. It wouldn't take much to set us back. I
Mhm.
don't think so. We'd be set back to the 1800s. I feel like if we lost everything, like electricity,
Yeah, if there's just a nuclear war,
just a
right?
solar flare, just a solar flare could take us out. They did that.
Yeah.
The first telegram wires that they ran,
Mhm.
um, that got taken out by a solar flare.
I think
So
I heard about that. Yeah, so there was like an extreme solar flare back then, but we just didn't have as much electronics, so it wasn't
yeah, it don't,
that big of a deal.
yeah, it only wiped out the telegram.
Yeah.
Imagine if it wiped us out today, we'd all be in the dark. I mean, sure, I could go fly fish on the mountain for my food, but you know, it'd just be a rough, it'd be a rough restart.
Mhm.
Can't just plug it back in.
Yeah.
If all we had to do was run telegram wire. So, anyways, you want to start wrapping this up a little bit?
I'm getting kind of tired. I'm probably better go to bed soon. I guess what we can conclude from this is that it was a UFO. We can say with fairly good confidence that there was a UFO and something strange happened because everybody would have to be lying together, and that seems more implausible than it just
Yeah.
being a true story. But as far as this like Men in Black stuff, and when you start thinking about how big is this conspiracy and stuff, like then you can jump into the conspiracy theory deep end with this. But if you just stay at the surface and say, yeah, there is a UFO, we don't know what it is, but there's just something there, then yeah, that's true. But is there
Well,
Men in Black? Is there? I don't know. Can't
you
say
want my
that for
theory
sure.
on it? You want my entire theory on it, real quick? I'll
Yeah,
give you my rundown. This
yeah,
is
go
what I
ahead.
take away from it. I take away from the fact that investigating the Tic Tac is not really a great idea because we're not going to get any further investigating it than we already have. There's no high
Hmm.
definition pictures of it. I don't think all the people are lying about it. I find it very difficult to believe that some random government agency came on board a ship and took all the documents and just buried it. It doesn't, I mean, maybe they did. I find it hard to believe. Uh, if I were to make a conclusion on this as a UFO, I would say it's probably some unidentified flying object owned by our government
Hmm.
that was operating too close to a Navy fleet and it was sighted and it had to leave the area. And if you think about it, it's been exposed now. Maybe it wasn't our government, but maybe it was. I don't think it was
Hmm.
aliens because it hasn't been seen again around the world, confirmed. There's only one story that we know of. I feel like if I were in charge of navigating that tic tac, if I were in charge of flying it around, I would probably not make that same decision twice, and I would take it somewhere where nobody's going to see it.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's
I
what
mean,
the I was going to say the prelim DNI report says that these things concentrate around U.S. military, U.S. military activity.
well, I mean, I could see that. I mean, then it would be foreign surveillance. I don't.
Yeah, then
I,
you,
I,
yeah,
I mean, U.S. military, having these things concentrate around them. Do we not have any more pictures from the U.S. military? Do we not have any more sightings of these same things? I mean, we've only got one of the Tic Tac that we know of. I
hmm
mean, and I mean, it makes sense that they would see more of these things. They're more observant. They're just out there screwing around. They're doing interesting things. If I was a
hmm
foreign government, I'd be interested in knowing what our military is doing.
yeah,
If I was an alien, I'd be more interested in knowing what they're doing rather than what the merchant ship shipping something is doing.
hmm Well, I was going to say too. I think you brought up like this latest New York Times article says, well, most people from the Pentagon are saying now that it's either like space trash or it's like drones, like Chinese
It's
drones.
phenomenon.
Yeah.
Phenomenon. It's phenomenon.
But
It's something easily explained away, or it's something
or the
we can
UAP.
theorize.
But so now the stance on this is like, oh, it's just Chinese drones. No need to worry, guys. Like
Yeah, that's
it's
exactly a good. That's a
Chinese
great.
drones. Yeah.
That's a great need to worry.
Yeah, like,
You're
oh, no
infatuated.
need to worry. Yeah, it's just
Yeah, like you're
Chinese
telling
just
me that we're allowing them in our airspace. Sure. Yeah,
yeah.
that's really dumb. I mean, it it doesn't make much sense. It makes a lot of sense for the American people to be able to explain it away as Chinese drones, because then that gives them something else to blame it on. It gives them something else to be like, oh, he probably just saw a drone.
Yeah,
So
a giant
that's why I
tic tac.
say that looking at UFOs going forward, for me personally, I would rather focus myself on the ones that have been seen more often, ones that have had more sightings of the same thing by different people. Um, if I had come up with a successful shape of an flying object, there's no reason that I would consistently change it into dumbbell looking things flying around, or cones, or
Yeah.
triangles, and all this other weird crap. I just don't feel like that's really a good route to go. Trying to investigate it, you will end up running down and investigating every differently shaped object.
No,
It's
I
not.
don't think that's a good idea. No. Yeah.
Not exactly. Yeah, yeah. I feel like the ones that
But
like
yeah, I see
cross
what
the.
you mean. Like we have to have the cases that have been seen by multiple people. Those are the ones that have multiple people all over the world have seen, or people, in all different locations that aren't connected. That's the ones that provide
Those are the ones
stronger
that
evidence.
we're more likely to see those again historically. Looking at it historically, are we
Mhm.
likely to see the Tic Tac one again? No. You know, are
No.
we? I mean, it's been 20 years. Nobody's seen it. Nobody's got
Mhm.
any footage of it. Are we likely to see it again? No. So it's
Mhm.
not going to really do us a whole lot of good to investigate it. We're not going to get any further than we've already gotten. You know,
No. No, yeah, I guess what I wanted to decide today is like, do we believe it's a UFO? And then how much of that story, because I feel like the story, because there's so much unknowns, there's so much conspiracy theory space to say, okay, well, if that was true, then what about all these other things that the ufology community has been saying? Is that true too? And I don't know. There's no proof. There's nothing there that substantiates that. I don't.
everything that we've been told about it, everything that's been leaked, everything that's been said, maybe to Congress about it, anything that's on video footage of it, all of that stuff, we can take that. Um, I mean, kind of as the facts that we have. There's not going to be any further investigating on it because no one else has seen it from another perspective. We only have the perspectives that we
Mhm.
have.
Yeah, there's no
I
more
do
data to
believe
collect.
Do I believe that they saw something? Yeah, absolutely. Do I believe that, can I make a determination on whether it's our governments or aliens? No, not really. Uh, but my theory on it still stands, you know.
Hmm.
I mean, it hasn't been seen again, so it's obviously not trying to be seen again, you know.
Yeah.
If you know that you've been seen and you don't want to be seen again, you're going to go somewhere where you're not going to be seen. And if it was an alien craft that was interested in investigating us, it would be near us and be seen again.
Hmm.
I feel like over 20 years.
Yeah.
So unless it has some kind of cloaking technology.
Yeah, I do want to find new evidence to support the idea that there's UFOs. I feel like that's going to be a pretty hard thing to do. If you could do that, you'd have a book and you'd have props in the ufology community. I think what I want to do with the channel specifically is to look at this story. So we know at the very least there is a UFO or something strange. The military saw. They admitted it. So I think that begs the question then, if UFOs were real and we all thought they were fake, it was just a phony baloney fictitious thing, then what else of that story is true from that ufology community? Like this whole story about Nazis had the UFOs and we got them, or we got ones at Roswell. I want to look at all the parts of that story and say, well, what evidence is there to support that story? Because all these ufologists say they have evidence to support this, and a lot of times it's like I know the Stanton Friedman, who did all the Majestic 12 stuff. He said that somebody sent him documents in the mail or something, secret documents, or they sent him microfilm, and that they it was just dropped in his mailbox basically. Like that's he says that and it looks true, but that's definitely not verifiable. That's just like that's the opposite of verifiable. That's like
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
so
like,
I want to look at that story and say, well, what parts of this story actually do have evidence to support that? Is there any evidence to support that anything happened at Roswell besides a weather balloon, other than that one news report that we got that the Army said was a mistake? Or is there any evidence to support alien aliens were at Area 51? Well, there's just Bob Lazar, right? So we just have Bob Lazar and his surrounding story. So how what evidence does Bob Lazar have to support his story other than just his words? Just there's that element 231 or whatever he said he discovered, and that stuff. Like, I guess that could be considered kind of evidence, but I don't know how well you could kind of yeah strongly consider that evidence. But
I
I mean,
don't know, man. I mean, the way that I look at it is Bob Lazar's story. I mean, it feels like he believes what he says
uh,
when you listen to him talk, or when he discusses that identification device that identifies you based on the length of the bones of your hand. And then that guy
yeah,
brings it in and he says, that's exactly what it is. And nobody believed me. You know,
yeah, like that is. I feel like that is kind of some evidence to support his story a little bit that
a
he
little bit. It makes it more believable.
yeah.
Uh, Now,
Maybe
like
he's
he
a
said
master
things like,
con artist and he's just like kind of slipping us suggestions, and then as soon as the guy brings it in, he's like, "Oh yeah, that's it. That's exactly what I saw."
maybe, I
And
mean, it didn't look like what he described, but
yeah,
you know, I don't know, man. It's very difficult to, it's very difficult to find evidence on his story because it
hmm,
is in Area 51. There's a lot of documentaries on Area 51. There's a lot of documentaries on what the government has done with aliens. There's a lot of misinformation on it. There's a lot of people coming up with their theories. There's a lot of stuff that's been going on for years, right?
hmm,
Disseminating through those facts without having somebody who actually works at Area 51 telling us about it is very difficult. Um,
yeah,
but then,
without the government acknowledging it's true, It's like it's all just up.
They've declassified a lot of stuff from Area 51, apparently, of experimental jets that they've made. They've made television shows about it,
Uh-huh.
and it's very compelling, and it's all probably true. I mean, they declassified it. They've had experts come in and talk about it, but none of these same experts that were talking about jets and airplanes and other things have ever come out and spoke about UFOs being there and aliens being there. It feels like if you had people who worked there and there were aliens there, that it would be a very difficult secret for them to keep, to come out and
Mhm.
so jubilantly talk about their fighter jets and not mention anything about aliens. It's such an exciting subject. I don't see how there's nobody coming out and saying anything about it. Bob Lazar comes out and says something about it, and gets the whole thing going. I I feel like he's credible until he's proven uncredible.
Mhm.
Same thing with the Tic Tac thing. Uh, when you start talking about mystical beings from outside the universe, I start having, I start walking away from that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Uh-huh.
like it's just
Uh,
the way I feel.
mhm.
I feel like the Tic Tac is. I think my theory that it's probably owned by the government. It was probably operating too close to a naval fleet. Maybe there was a
Mhm.
reason for that. Maybe it was a mistake. Hasn't been spotted again. The any other unidentified flying objects that the military has spotted, don't feel like there's a whole lot of pictures and reports of it that are coming and being made public to us
Mhm.
about what they are, what they look like, why they're there. I don't feel like there's enough information there for us to really investigate it. You
Mhm.
know, um, Too much of it. That's why I think if we want to know more about credible UFO sources, I would look into the ones that have been reported multiple times by multiple people,
Mhm.
and sift through that data, sift through the things that have been reported from different perspectives, you know,
Mhm.
to come up with, which ones are true and which ones
I
aren't.
think MUFON does have a database out there where they show you can see all that stuff.
Yeah, I imagine it's a good place to start. I mean,
Yeah.
and even if there is misinformation in there, there's enough truth in there to sift through.
Mhm.
Or like it's kind of like looking for Bigfoot. There's people who really think they saw him, and then there's people who want to make money from it or make fame, or so
Mhm.
there's those things. There are crazy people out there that muddy up the community to the point where you can't really do
Mhm.
credible research sometimes. You know,
Yeah, that's true.
I mean,
Like this is a difficult topic to research because you never know what if how much of this stuff is true or what is true. I feel like I say that there's this story of mankind's involvement with UFOs. That story has different versions. It has many different versions. Um, yeah, it's so many rabbit holes to go down that probably just don't lead anywhere and just are just a pool of craziness. I feel like when you're reading about this stuff, you have to take it with a grain of salt and accept the possibility that it could all be just a fictional story. And
you can't investigate a theory. Like you can't investigate if somebody starts an investigation and they come up
mm,
to their theory. You can't investigate their theory. You can
mhm,
investigate the facts that led them to that theory and develop a theory on it, but you can't investigate their theory because if you can't find any facts in their theory, right,
mhm.
then you're going to go down the rabbit hole.
Or
And
you mean like a theory, like I said, like Tom DeLonge just saying that these are interdimensional beings and they're demons and angels and or what have you and all this. That's not proof. There's no way to even gather any data to support that at all. Like
sounds like he was smoking weed,
or
you know,
yeah,
like
sound like yeah, he's just making shit up. Yeah,
maybe he has some evidence to support this theory. If he presents this
I don't think
evidence,
he's ever brought any evidence to say it's more like just like I'm in the know and you guys are not. So trust me.
yeah, I don't buy that. Like,
Mhm.
I'm not even gonna entertain it because of that.
That's
I
kind of
think it's,
insulting almost. Yeah.
I mean, and I'm not trying to insult the guy.
Hmm.
I just don't. If that's his theory, that's his theory. That's great. I mean, you can believe that all you want. I don't care. It doesn't bother
Hmm.
me. I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm just not going to investigate that. I'm not going to go down that hole and try to prove you right or wrong on it because I
Hmm.
don't think that it's worth. There's no facts there for me to look at. Just your word. And you start talking about people from outside the universe. I mean, I don't know a
Hmm.
single scientist. Maybe Neil deGrasse Tyson could explain to me what the edge of the universe is created out of. But
Hmm.
in real life, he can't because he can't see it. He's never seen it. He has a
Hmm.
theory on it. But he can't 100% tell me what the edge of the universe is made out of or what's outside. If there is an outside of the universe, he can't tell me he's never seen outside the universe. Does he know there's an outside? You know,
Hmm.
I'm not going to entertain it. Like I'm not even going to entertain it because sounds like he's smoking weed.
Hmm.
That's just all I can come up with.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think a good place that I'd like to investigate is like so these uh alleged underground bases, like one of them is Dulce, New Mexico, where there's these alleged secret underground bases owned by the government where they're doing who knows alien hybrid experiments or whatever. And I even saw an episode of it was like the show on Discovery Channel called like UFO Witness, where they went to Dulce, New Mexico, and he was like scanning across with his camera across it. He had an infrared camera, and he said he saw a plume of steam come out like it was hot air coming out of the mountain. And then they just ended the episode like that. And it was like, okay, what did they see? And you know what? I actually emailed the host of that show and asked him, and he got back to me actually and told me that they didn't get to do it and that he wants to do another episode over it. But like,
What do you
if
mean
they're,
didn't get to do it?
I don't know. He said they didn't have enough
It,
time or didn't have enough money, but like he
to
didn't
walk
really
up to walk up
elaborate.
to where you saw
He had
a
to walk
plume.
up where he saw it.
I mean, bro, I'll go do it right now. But
Yeah.
let me tell you, something that I saw on a show called Infographics, right? They do this animated things. I'm gonna go ahead and just say where I got this information from because it's not something that I have as a fact, but they say that outside of like say Area 51,
Uh-huh.
right? You got the gates. You have the gates. You can't go in. There's the fence. You know where it's
Uh-huh.
at. We know where it's at. But outside of that area is another area. And I'm pretty sure that this is true too. They know if you're outside that area. There's an area that they're surveilling to make
Uh-huh.
sure that you're not trespassing. You may be in the secret area and not even know you're in it. You
Yeah.
may be lost. You may be passing through. You may be turning around and going another way. They know you're there, right?
Yeah.
These secret areas that we're discussing right now, if he had said that we weren't actually able to go there because we were stopped by authorities, that seems like it would be something that I would want to have on camera.
Yeah.
You know,
That
I
interaction
wouldn't.
with the authorities.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That's probably something the authorities want to avoid.
Yeah.
But you know, I just I don't have a problem trying to find these places. Locating a
Mm-hmm.
secret area is not illegal. Going into it, knowing that
Mm-hmm.
you're not supposed to is illegal.
No,
So
no. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. If there's these underground bases, there must be some evidence of it. Like it's not sealed off from the outside world.
yeah, that's true. I mean, you know that I don't know if it's every few years, I don't know what the agreement actually is, but they allow Russia to fly a plane over the US and we're allowed to fly a plane over them, to look and see
Uh-huh.
what kind of, it's like, I think it's Russia, like an agreement where we can see what each other have, you know,
Uh-huh.
and maybe it's got something to do with the nuclear proliferation. So I would assume we're pretty good at hiding things like that.
Yeah.
Um, Gigantic underground bases, though, is something I'm very skeptical of because A, it requires a lot of earth moving.
Mm-hmm.
B, it's going to require a lot of people to build it.
Hmm.
See, if it doesn't, it's going to require a lot of time and a lot of secretive activity. So you would have to have an area that is not only under surveillance, and then it would have to be fenced off to keep people from going in it. You'd have to have authorities there to stop people getting in it. There's going to have to be some sort of barrier between the public and it. And then you're going to have people to build the thing. And then you're going to have to keep them quiet. It's very, it's something I want to entertain, but it's also something that I draw a line of skepticism somewhere, you know.
Well, yeah, you have to, or you're just
Yeah.
going to be cuckoo
Yeah,
bananas.
like the giant city or whatever they have underneath the Denver airport. I don't even, you would see traffic going in and out.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to see that kind of stuff, it's going to be noticeable. Now, if you told me they had a secret base in Antarctica where they're doing this stuff, I would believe it
Mm-hmm.
because nobody's going there. I would definitely want to go look at that and see, check out Antarctica.
Yeah, that's just not feasible though to
Exactly. That's why it's the best
make an
place to do it.
expedition.
Yeah. That's why it would be a great place to do that.
Mm-hmm.
The middle of the desert's a great place to hide things too, but I just don't, I don't know, man, doing alien experiments.
Mm-hmm.
How many experiments can you do on dead aliens we caught in like the 60s?
I don't know.
So,
Yeah.
anyways, man,
Yeah, I'm about to let you go. I'm getting tired. I'm ready to go lay down.